Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jeff, and today I thought I would do a quick video about my astrophotography setup. I got a request on Facebook to do a video that shows the equipment that I'm using, so we'll go out to the backyard in a few minutes and take a look at it. But before we get to that, maybe a little background is in order. I've been doing astrophotography for over 10 years now. I started with a CPC 800 and a DSLR. And I have to say that that entire experience over the last several years has been very frustrating. Never been able to produce an image that I'm satisfied with. I've tried auto guiding with a guide scope and a camera. I've used an off-axis guider. I even at one point got Next Guide, which is a Celestron all-in-one guiding unit that's supposed to be able to guide automatically. It was a miserable failure. Doesn't work at all. And so I banged my head against the wall for years trying to produce something good. And as you'll see, this image right here is one of the better ones I was ever able to take in that time. And it's frankly awful. This is not anything that I'm proud of, but it's the best that I could do. And I got so frustrated that I eventually gave up, put the stuff away, and for the last couple of years haven't gone anywhere near it. Recently though, I started thinking maybe I wanted to give it another try. But this time around, I took the advice that you often hear from experts, which is if you're starting at this, don't go with a long focal length telescope. There's just too much difficulty in guiding and focusing and things like that. Instead, get a short focal length wide field refractor. It's going to be much easier. So with that in mind, I sold everything, all my equipment, and I reinvested in a completely new setup, this time based around a Red Cat 51, which is a very small apochromatic Petzval design refractor, very wide field, and on a CEM 25P mount with an ASI 1600 mm camera, and all controlled by an ASI Air Pro, which is a little Raspberry Pi based computer that mounts right on the telescope that controls everything. What's amazing about it is that I can literally control everything right from my iPad, all wirelessly. So once I turn the telescope on and get it polar aligned, I can literally just go back in the house and sit there on my iPad and do everything I need to do. I can start guiding, I can program my imaging run, do everything, go to bed and wake up in the morning, and I've got a bunch of images that are ready to process. So it really has changed the entire experience of astrophotography. And as an example, this photograph is the first light image for the Red Cat that I took. As you can see, it's significantly better than the last image I showed you. This represents 300-second exposures over 3 nights in narrowband filters. The guiding easily was able to get sub-arc second guiding on this. It is just night and day comparison between what I used to have to go through and what it is like now. So it's completely changed my enjoyment of the hobby, and I'm so excited now of just every clear night of being able to get out there and take photographs, because it has become, now instead of being just a chore, it's tremendously easy. So enough of that. Let's go out back and take a look at the telescope, and I'll meet you out there. All right, and here's the telescope. As you can see, it's pretty red, so it kind of looks cool, but let's start with the mount. So this is an Ioptron CEM 25P. So it's a center equatorial mount. So the nice thing about it is that the weight is more centered over the tripod, so it's a little more stable, and it also has the added benefit of allowing it to be a much lighter mount and still hold a lot. So in this case, this mount is rated for 27 pounds, and my equipment doesn't even come close to that. I'm not even at 10 pounds. So typically what people say is you shouldn't load your mount up with more than half of its rated capacity if you're going to do astrophotography. So this is perfect setup for me because it's very light. So for going to dark sky sites or whatever, it's all of this, everything here fits in 3 relatively small cases. Previously in my Celestron setup, I was lugging around close to 300 pounds worth of gear with the tripod and the wedge and the telescope and everything else that went along with it. You know, it was like a truckload of stuff. I can fit all of this in the back seat of my truck, no problem. The mount is seems to be very accurate. Like I said earlier, first time out, I was able to get sub-arc-second guiding on it, which was pretty amazing. I never was able to do that with the Celestron. All in all, it's a great little mount. Let's see. After that, let's talk about the telescope itself. So that is the Red Cat. This is the upgraded version. So it's got this right here, which is a tilt plate. So if you have any issues with tilt, you can adjust that through here. And it's worked very well. Very nicely engineered and put together piece of equipment. Unlike a conventional telescope that has a Crayford style focuser in the back here, this uses a helical ring focuser like a camera lens, which they put it there, as I understand it, for so you could use this for wildlife photography. I don't really do that, so not a big thing for me, but it does seem to work pretty well. It's very smooth. Everything is engineered very tight. One interesting feature about this telescope is it's got the lens cap, which is great, but you'll see built inside is a Bahtinov mask. So for focusing, the top of the cap, and by the way, this is all machined aluminum, so very high quality. This cap screws off, and you've got a Bahtinov mask for focusing. So pinpoint focusing is very easy with it. So going back, next up we've got the filter wheel. So this is just the standard ZWO electronic filter wheel, 31 millimeter filters, 8 positions, and I've got LRGB filters along with narrowband hydrogen alpha, oxygen, sulfur filters. And I also have an opaque dark filter, so I can take darks just by using that filter. I don't have to come out, put the lens cap on or anything like that. I do my darks on my dark flats that way. For flats, I have just recently got an EL panel, so I don't have to do the t-shirt thing up at the morning sky anymore. I can do them at any time I want, just use the panel. It works very nice, produces very consistent, even flats. The camera is the ASI 1600mm Pro monochrome. Look at the back here. So very nice camera, no issues with it, very sensitive, not a ton of noise. I don't use bias frames with this due to the non-linearity of CMOS cameras. People often suggest that taking short exposures for biases just doesn't work very well. So I've switched to dark flats, which seem to work very well. And it's guided by, this is the ASI 30 millimeter mini guide scope with a ASI 290mm mini camera. So that's another monochrome camera, very small sensor, but very, very sensitive. Always seem to be able to find a guide star, no problem. That's also working really well. Under here, this thing is the ZWO electronic focuser. So that is a focusing motor that is mounted in a bracket that was designed and built by Deep Sky Dad. He makes a number of nifty gadgets for mounting focusers and things to your telescope. This one in particular has this little gear here. This is all 3D printed, which connects to this belt, which in turn is routed over this it's a focusing ring. Basically it provides more tooth for the belt to grip. It seems to work really well. I'm able to focus very, very easily. It's very, very fine level of focus with that focus motor, and since I can store the focus point, getting to focus when I set up is really easy. I just punch in the number, it goes to it. Tweak it with the Bahtinov mask because it might shift a little bit depending on conditions, but I can get into focus within just a matter of a couple of minutes. And then finally we've got this little magic box, which is the ASI Air Pro. Everything essentially connects to this, so all the cameras connect to this. and the mount connects to it, and through the iPad you can use this to control everything. It also has power ports, and recent update allows you to control the power output in each of those ports, which means you can hook up your dew heaters to it. So my plan is to switch from the current dew heater, so I have a do not that powers the dew straps for the guide scope and the telescope. I'm going to cut the wires that come off of this and install the appropriate connector here, so I can have shorter wires that just run off of the ASI air, so that I can control even my dew heaters from the ASI air as well. I also have the camera itself has a dew heater. This little copper colored thing here is a thin film heating element that keeps the dew off of the sensor window. So that is the telescope. I'll say so. I'm working on cable routing here, so got some cable loom. I guess I need to shorten that up a bit, but want to get this all cleaned up. And at this point, the only cables that actually come off of the telescope and go anywhere to the ground are these two, the power cable for the mount and the power cable for the ASI air. And then I've got the power cable coming from the dew heater. I can get rid of this when I plug in the dew strips to the ASI Air Pro, which will leave only these two cords that go down to the battery. And that's a Jackery 240. So it's I think a 16.8 hour lithium battery. It seems to power everything for, at least right now in the summer, I get about 3 hours of darkness for imaging. And it certainly will last through that. I think the last night I had it out, after a 3-hour imaging run, I still had something like 30% of the battery left. I may have to get another one in the winter time when there's much more darkness, but for now it works. Oh, one other thing, some people might wonder, what is this yellow thing here? Well, it's called a goldenrod, and it is a gun-safe heater. And it's used to reduce or eliminate humidity and moisture from underneath the scope cover, because I also have a Telegizmos 365 telescope cover that I use to cover this, which means I can keep this set up and ready to go 24/7. So during the summer, my plan is I just leave this out here with the scope cover on, put that heater underneath, because here in Washington, we get a lot of rain. It's pretty damp. That should help keep any moisture from accumulating under the scope. But yeah, it means that when I used to go imaging, it would take me at least an hour and a half or so to lug everything out from the garage, bring it out here and set it all up and get ready to go. And now I come out, pull the cover off, turn the power on, tweak the focus, do a plate solve to make sure that polar alignment is still good. The ASI air then slews to my target, and I start my imaging run. And so I'm up in imaging usually within 10 minutes or so, and then I go in the house, and this just does everything out here, and I don't need to mess with it. But right now it's getting dark at 11:40. I get everything set up, and prior to that, kick off the imaging run at 11:40, and then I go to bed and wake up in the morning, and it's all good. So that's the telescope. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.